Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode number 6 of the Screaming Beaver podcast. I'm your host, Jason Jackson. On this episode of the podcast, we're going to be doing something a little bit different because of the COVID regulations and the lockdown. I haven't been able to get a guest for this week, but I have been wanting to do a podcast, maybe not as long as normal, about my New Year's resolutions and my health issues I've been having over the past year and how I've been trying to fix those. So just a few little things that I've been doing. I'll start off by just giving myself a little introduction. I'm going to be 45 years old in the next month. I have a wife and 2 kids who are very active, and we are on the road constantly. Typical night, it's not a sit-down meal. We're grabbing something to eat, and then we're off to whatever activity we happen to be doing. I worked at tobacco rolling mills for the past 22 years, right up until September of 2019. At tobacco, I had a 50% desk job, 50% I was out in the mill running around. In September of 2019, I took a job in Ottawa, which is about a 90-10 split as far as desk to actually walking around. I didn't have the greatest diet when I was at Tobacco. I would eat from Fresco's restaurant on Highway 17 most days, usually a 5-pound baked lasagna, which was so good. But you could actually hear your heart slowing down as you ate it. It was basically a lasagna with an all-dressed pizza on top of it, short of the crust. So a lot of cheese, a lot of pepperoni, a lot of green peppers, mushrooms. It was delicious. But I would eat that every day. When I was a kid, I had trouble putting on any weight. I ate like a pig, and I never gained any weight at all. But as I've gotten older and my metabolism has slowed down, weight is becoming an issue for me. So then when we moved to Ottawa, even less exercise, less walking around, better choices for restaurants. The amount of food available in downtown Ottawa is just incredible. Joey's restaurant, if anyone's looking for an excellent restaurant, Joey's on Rideau is really, really good. We tend to go there once a week. So my weight has gone up over the past year. I think I topped out around 210. I'm not a big guy. I'm only 5'6", and so 210 pounds was quite a bit. Last March the 12th, I got a phone call from one of my friends, Norm Sauvé, wanting to know if I wanted to come out and play hockey on Wednesday night, or it was a Thursday night. I run a hockey tournament called the Pond Rocket Cup, and I had taken the day off work to work on doing some articles for this newspaper that we put out every year about the hockey tournament. And I figured it would be a good time to go to hockey and maybe get a few more players and tie up some loose ends. And so I agreed. I went to hockey that night, and I got there, and I normally play defense. And for the past couple years, I've been slowing down. I find it harder and harder to play hockey. I just assumed it was because my weight was going up. And so I got there, and there was already 4 defensemen on my team. So I decided, I'll play forward, I'll play center, and I'll try to chase the best player in our league, Riley Sauvé, around the ice. And Riley's in his early 20s and is a really good skater, and I'm not a very good skater. So I chased Riley around the ice, and about 5 minutes left in the game, I wasn't feeling too good, and our team was up, so I sat out the last shift, and I was having a hard time catching my breath. I felt like I was, there was something wrong. So I got into the dressing room, I sat around for a little bit, and I decided I'd try to take pulse on my phone, and I was having a hard time. I couldn't get my pulse, couldn't get it. Finally, I got my pulse, and it was 200 beats a minute. And now at this point, I've been sitting around for 15 minutes. That was kind of weird. So I went and had a shower, came back, sat down again, tried to take my pulse again, and again, it was at 200 beats a minute. So I took it a third time, still 200 beats a minute. So I called my wife and I told her I might be having a heart attack. So she came and got me and drove me to the hospital. And by the time I got to the hospital, like I was soaking wet. I don't know if it was her driving or the fact that my heart was racing so bad, but I walked into the emergency room. Now this is March 12th. The emergency room was empty. There wasn't a soul in the emergency room, which is weird for Hawkesbury. And they took me in, and they eventually got my pulse to come back down to around 100 and some beats per minute. So it was much better. At that point, they didn't know what was going on. I had a hockey tournament I needed to run, and it was kind of crunch time. I had to send all my stuff into the paper, and I was also going to have to order shirts, so I was concerned about that. Anyway, the next day is when the lockdown happens on March 13th. It was a Friday. So I got told that I have something called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. They sent my test results off to the Ottawa Heart Institute, and they came back and told me that this is what I had. I've had it my whole life, and there's an operation that could be done. So I was pretty relieved about that because they had told me I was going to be in the hospital for a few weeks, and once they figured this out, I could go home. So my wife came and got me, and when we got home, my father-in-law and my mother-in-law were here, and my father-in-law was outside the house looking at one of my windows. I said, "What's Papa doing?" And Deb was like, "Oh, I didn't want to tell you, but the basement flooded." So at this point, I've got a heart condition, my basement's flooded, and I still don't know what's happening with my hockey tournament. So anyway, it ended up around 4:00. We had to cancel the hockey tournament, which in the long run was a big load off my shoulders because I was a little bit behind. I tend to leave things to the last minute. But that was my first real scare. And I called the doctor, and because of COVID, they kind of pushed off my surgery. I tried to run over the summer, and things weren't going well, but I was kind of blaming it on the heart condition. So I'm kind of a person who gets on like lots of like personal kicks, and some of my kicks stick, and then some don't. So like the Pond Rocket Cup, we're in our 16th year. That one stuck. I run the Bentley Hill Sports Club, which helps with minor sports in the area. That's kind of stuck for the past few years. I tried to write a novel titled Broken Twigs and Shattered Dreams. I got about two chapters into that and then never touched it again. So a lot of my health kicks that I get on tend to be like the novel and just don't stick. I've done CrossFit in the mornings for a while, and I got hurt, and I haven't gone back to that. I've tried giving up sugar. I've gone on a diet from Tim Ferriss called the slow carb diet. I did that for a month. I lost 30 pounds. But then I went back to eating baked lasagnas at Fresco's, and that didn't stick either. So sometimes it really, you need something to open your eyes, and my heart issues I think were the one thing that did open my eyes up a little bit. So I had my surgery in November. I was scheduled to go in early November. I got there, and something blew up in the operating room, and they had to push my surgery. And the nurse came in, she apologized, but she says, the good thing is you get to pick which doctor you can have now. And I'm like, well, give me the doctor that's least likely to kill me on the table. And she pulled out a name. She's like, oh, you want Dr. Davies? I'm like, oh, I didn't have Dr. Davies before. It's a good thing this happened. So they rescheduled my surgery. I had been wearing a smartwatch and kind of tracking my heart rate and that sort of thing at this point. My resting heart rate was in the mid 80s most of the time. The watch would track that. So my average resting heart rate was like 85, 86, 87. somewhere in that range. So I was actually pretty worried about the heart surgery. It was just a minor thing. They went in through my leg in the femoral, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, femoral artery, and went up into my heart. And the chances of something going wrong were pretty small, but at the same time, I was pretty worried and I was a little bit nervous. So about a week before that, I decided, I'm going to try and lose some weight. I'm going to try and make some changes, and hopefully this time they'll stick. So I went in for the surgery. Everything went well. They weren't able to put me to sleep because apparently I have sleep apnea, or so they tell me. I don't really believe that, but so I had the surgery. I came out. It was only 2 days. I had to be on bed rest. I was back to playing hockey a week later, and I could not believe the difference in the hockey game. I wasn't tired. I didn't feel like I was going to die when I got back to the bench. On a normal hockey game, I would come back to the bench and I'd be lucky if I'd caught my breath by the time I had to go back out again. And my heart rate came down considerably. Normally in a hockey game, my heart would be up to 180, 190 beats per minute. After the surgery, my heart was coming in at like 140 max, considerably lower. My resting heart rate went down to 67 to 69 beats per minute, pretty consistently. I purchased something called a Whoop strap, and what it does is it measures your heart all the time and it tracks your activity. It does everything on your smartphone. You can see it on the internet when you log into your account, and it also tracks your sleep. So sleep was another thing that I was concerned about. I went for a sleep study. I didn't sleep at all during the sleep study, but when I came back, they told me I had sleep apnea, severe sleep apnea, which I don't really believe because I didn't actually do any sleeping while I was there. So I found it a little bit difficult to believe that I had this sleep apnea. I do have a good friend, Daryl Howes, who is a amateur life hacker. I'm going to have him on the podcast. And I work with him. I've worked with him for quite a few years at VACO, and I'm working with him again in Ottawa. And Daryl's been a good source of information. He tracks all kinds of stuff. He's always doing some sort of experiment on himself and gut biome tests and this and that. So he's been a good source of information. And again, I will get him onto the podcast. He's kind of a Tim Ferriss for anyone who's read the 4-Hour Workweek or the 4-Hour Body. Daryl's very much along those lines. So as far as what I've been doing, I've changed my diet quite a bit. My biggest problem, or one of my biggest problems, is I drank a lot of Coke, and I would have 3, 4, 5 Cokes a day at work with every meal. So Daryl brought me in some sparkling waters, Bublés or Bubblies, however you want to pronounce it. And I have to admit, the first one I drank I thought was horrible. But then I drank a second one, I drank a third one, and by the third one I'd realized that they're really not that bad. So I gave up Coke, and I either drink water with my meals now or a buble or sparkling water. I like the PC brand ones, actually. They're actually pretty good. They're the blue menu. I like the grapefruit one, and there's also like a mandarin orange one that's quite good. So giving up that, I think, has really made a big difference. From November 7th until today, I think I'm down 15 pounds. Another thing I'm doing is I'm doing something called time restricted eating, or what's the other name for it? intermittent fasting. And basically what I'm doing is I don't eat breakfast. And so I stop eating at 8 o'clock at night, and I try to make it through till 11, 12, 1 o'clock the next day without eating. It also helps if you can do some exercise in the morning before you have anything to eat. It's called fasted cardio. So I've just been going for a walk for the past couple weeks. When I go to work, it's not too bad because I have to walk from my car where I park to the office, and so that's usually like a 12 to 15 minute walk, depending on how many lights I hit. But lately I've been doing quite a bit longer walks, like hour and a half, 2 hours. There's a guy named Ben Greenfield. He's a big believer in the fasted cardio and these walks in the morning, and he says the sweet spot is like 40 minutes. 35 to 40 minute walk is the optimal amount of walking that you can do. I'll weigh myself in the morning. I have something called a Renpho scale, so that's RENPHO. It's a scale that's available on Amazon, and it's quite good. It tracks a whole bunch of your body metrics, your fat percentage, your water percentage, protein, your weight. And so I'll weigh myself before I go out on the walk. I'll walk for 2 hours and I'll come back, and I can usually lose about a pound in that time. Now, some of that is water weight, obviously, but there is a fat loss as well. You can see your fat percentage and your different fat weights before and after. So I know that the walks are doing something in the fasted state. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, so do your own research. Don't take what I'm saying as the gospel truth. But there is quite a bit of people talking about fasted cardio. So those are two of the things that I've been doing, and the weight has been coming off. Sleep tracking is another thing. The Whoop strap tracks your sleep for you. It tells you if you've had a good night's sleep, if you've not had a good night's sleep, how many disturbances you've had in your sleep. I also use an app on my phone called Sleep. It's an Android app, and it has an alarm clock on it that will wake you up in the appropriate sleep cycle. So when you sleep, you have different sleep cycles, and you want to be woken up at a certain point. So if I set my alarm for 5 a.m., it'll wake me up as I'm coming out of the sleep cycle before 5 o'clock. So it may be 4:35, it may be 4:47, but it'll wake you up in that specific time, and it is excellent. There's a huge difference when you get woken up at the appropriate part of your sleep cycle than when you get woken up when you're not supposed to be, like if you're in deep sleep or whatever, and you get startled awake by your alarm clock. You feel groggy, it's not good. So I've been using that app as well, and it's quite good. So the other thing that kind of shocked me and a lot of people around here, we have a good friend in Vankleek-Hill, Lou Nisico. He helped us start Pond Rocket when we first started it out, and Lou just passed away recently of a heart attack. I don't want to say it was shocking, because Lou's lifestyle might have not been the most healthy, but he still was very young to pass away, and it was quite shocking for everyone. My good friend Hamish Cunning, Lou was like a second dad to him. He was his hockey coach for years, and he dated Hamish's mom, Shelley, and so him passing away was quite shocking. I didn't know the second person, but Bruno Gendron from, I believe, Castleman also passed away around the same time. He was an Ottawa police officer. He was very involved in the Cobras AA minor hockey. This guy was in great shape. He was in his mid 40s, I believe, early to mid 40s. Police officer in Ottawa, very active. I know he did a lot of biking with another one of my friends who's also a police officer. So he had a heart attack as well. So these things kind of weigh on my conscience there, and I don't really want to die. So that's why I'm trying to make these changes. So that's what I'm doing. I don't like the idea of making New Year's resolutions so much. I was always one of these guys. Well, I'll start the first of the month, and then the first of the month rolls around, and it's a Wednesday. Well, you can't start something on a Wednesday, so then I'd wait for the following week, the Monday of the next week, and because Monday is always a good time to start things, and it's things don't last. If you're going to start something, just start it. Start it today. There's no reason not to start things right away. Don't wait for an arbitrary Monday or an arbitrary first of the month or first of the year to try and get your act together. Just go out and do it. Another things I've started doing, I've been waking up with some wicked back pain in the morning, just really, really stiff. So my mornings, I get up, I'll go out into the living room, I'll turn on the fireplace, I'll put down a yoga mat, and I'll do a 10-minute yoga session that I found on YouTube, and there's like 100 of them out there. So just pick one, do 10 minutes of yoga. I know for myself, it really gets me going, loosens up my back muscles, loosens up my legs, makes me feel a lot better. I notice a big difference from the mornings that I do yoga and the mornings I don't. I always thought it was kind of a wishy-washy thing. I was never big into the whole yoga thing until I went one time and did it with Claudia Mahan. He used to live in Bentnikill, and found out how tough it was to do the yoga and to hold these poses, and it is really good for you. I know some people say that 10 minutes of yoga is not good enough, but it's good enough for me. Then I usually go and I soak in a hot bath for about half an hour in the morning, get everything loosened up, grab my bag, get dressed, and head for work. And like I said, I have a 10 to 15 minute walk into work, and around 10:30, 11 o'clock, depending on what meetings I have, I'll also try to head out and take a walk down the canal or around the Rita Center or whatever. And then when I come back from that, then I'll get a bite to eat. I would like to get back to going to the gym or going to CrossFit, but it's been difficult at this time with the COVID shutting down the gyms and then no showers when the gyms are open. And so I've been trying to do a few little things here at home, but I haven't really developed a good schedule for that yet. I think if you try to do too many changes at once, then you'll just end up not doing any of them. So I'm trying to stick to the ones that I am doing, and I'm hopefully in a few weeks going to be able to add maybe some weightlifting in the basement here or whatnot, just with a couple dumbbells and a bench. So so that's my resolutions. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the whole New Year's resolutions, but those are some changes that I'm trying to make in my life. I'd love to hear about what resolutions you guys have made and what you're doing to try and stick to those resolutions. Again, I recommend small changes, small things that are easy to do, like giving up Coke, for instance. Coca-Cola, that is, not Coke like cocaine. That's one of your problems. You got bigger problems than I do. So, So hopefully the lockdown will end and we will back to regular scheduled programming. I have a bunch of really great guests lined up people that have said they want to come on the podcast. I've got Dylan Black from the Ottawa radio stations. I believe he's with Boom 99.7. Steve Beauchesne has agreed to come on the podcast. He's the owner of Beau's All Natural Brewing Company. Gary Barton has said that he wouldn't mind coming on. Ian McRae, longtime Ventlikill hockey coach. So we've got some good guests coming up, and I'm excited to keep this going because I think people are enjoying it. For those of you who haven't checked out Louise Sproul's episode, it was episode number 5. It was excellent. Anyone from Ventlikill, I think, would be very interesting. And I've also got some other guests that are going to be coming on that are going to be a little bit more shocking, and maybe have a parental advisory before listening to that one. So we'll see how things go. I hope everyone enjoyed their Christmas break, their New Year's. The World Juniors are on. Canada won this evening 3-0 over the Czech Republic, so they're off to the semifinals. So hopefully the boys bring home another gold medal. And hockey is going to be starting up soon. So all the best in the new year, and thanks a lot for listening.